Why would you do that? Why would you do that? Why?
When I first read this chapter, I hated it, but after getting to sit with it for a while, my feelings are once again mixed. Let's go through it. Sukuna bargains and belittles Megami's cell. Fushiguro rightfully points out that Sukuna sounds desperate. He questions if it's because there's only one finger left, which isn't powerful enough to connect to himself to on its own. Megami admits that he never planned to live a proper life, but now feels a desire to live selflessly for someone else, wanting to give it a try just once more. The way the scene is depicted is honestly brilliant, and I wish we got to see more abstract stuff like this. Sukuna's dark void of mouths and eyes trying to swallow Megami whole, only to shrivel into nothing as Fushiguro reaffirms his stance and conviction, the face visibly expressing shock to then anger. It's all visualized really well. This is also just a very satisfying scene in general, and something we've been waiting to see for a very long time. Yuji finally splits Sukuna and Megami and sends them flying. What is left of the King of Curses is a grotesque, mangled abomination. Yuji approaches him and proposes his deal one more time. He has the option to come back inside of Yuji's body, and live alongside each other and everyone else. He will accept Sukuna with open arms, even if no one else will. Sukuna remains unyielding and stays true to his ideals. He will always be a curse. I really do not know how to feel about this being the conclusion to Sukuna. In his final moments, he's pathetic, disgusting, and terrified of his impending doom. He quite literally gets the same treatment as Mahito, but where Mahito's ending felt completely fitting for his character, instantly folding once being confronted with reality, Sukuna's ending feels unfitting with what we've seen of him throughout this entire story. While I appreciate that he still stuck to his beliefs till the very end, I don't feel satisfied with the way it's been portrayed. I absolutely despise IMU being brought back here instead of doing something completely fresh to cap off the arcs for both Yuji and Sukuna. I understand what Gege was going for, but I just don't feel moved by this, and that really frustrates me. A character as great as Sukuna deserves so much more than to bow out in such a quick way. It almost makes me question the point of this whole thing if we were just going to retread old ground. We finally see Hakari and Urume again now that the battle is over. In typical Urume fashion, they play down the efforts of the ones who fought Sukuna, dumbing it down to mere luck. Urume proceeds to kill herself. When I first read this part of the chapter, it felt kind of out of character for Urume to have such a nothing reaction to Sukuna dying, but I think it works well overall. Their little interaction with Hakari at the end was cute, and I'm actually pretty satisfied with this. Unlike most other people, I was never particularly interested in this fight, so it being off-screen is fine by me. However, I do understand where people are coming from. Despite this matchup realistically not being the most exciting, Gege could have totally made it more interesting if he wanted. As it is right now, it's pretty clear to me that he just didn't really feel like writing about either of these characters, and left them in a stalemate battle in the background. We skip to Megami waking up and him meeting up with Yuji and Nobara. They read letters Gojo had written for them, besides Yuji, who didn't get a letter since he talked to him beforehand. Nobara's letter contains information about her mother's whereabouts, but she doesn't really care about it. Meanwhile, Megami reads his letter and tries to hold back his laughter. In his letter, Gojo finally reveals to Megami the truth about his father, written in his trademark silly self. They realize that it's about time to go over to Maki and the others. Yuji specifies that the meeting is about Yuta, and now they need to save him. A mysterious voice angrily shouts at Yuta, and that's how the chapter ends. This is definitely my favorite part of the chapter. Seeing the trio back together and hanging out again after so long makes me really happy, and they're all as funny and cute as ever. This page with Megami smiling and Gojo's letter is definitely going up there as one of my favorites in the entire manga. Also, a little side note, I love how the scars Megami has correspond to what Sukuna's extra eyes were. This entire scene is perfect on its own, but I really do not like how it's awkwardly placed at the end with the same chapter where Sukuna dies. If this was moved over to the next chapter and there was more breathing room for Sukuna's ending, the chapter as a whole would have benefited a lot from it. The way it is now just gives me heavy tonal whiplash with how quickly we move on. They literally just saved the world, and yet there is absolutely no mention or reflection on that fact. As for whatever is happening with Yuta, I have no clue, but if it leads to a Gojo comeback, that honestly might be the last straw for me. Overall, this chapter has a lot of great ideas on paper, but they fall short in execution. There's still 3 chapters left, and anything can happen from here on out. So my biggest hope right now is that Gege manages to stick the landing with those. I know both this and the last video have been very negative, but I just want to say that I love this series. Throughout this entire story, there have been very few things that I have actively disliked. So whenever I don't like something, there is a reason for it. My criticism comes out of a genuine love for the series, rather than blindly hating it like you'd usually see on places like Twitter. Anyway, with all of that out of the way, I'm going to give this chapter a 5 out of 10.